Good day, good folks. My name is Carden Madzokere. I'm the author and publisher of the distinction-bound student textbooks, and welcome to lesson 1.1 under inflation, which is the first topic under under contemporary socio-economic issues. I'm doing this video because there are a lot of comments on people requesting that I treat contemporary questions because I seem to do micro more than I do contemporary. So, yes, by public demand, I bring to you contemporary. So it says here, study the picture below and answer the questions that follow. Okay, it says fuel, the foundation of all costs. Well, true, right? Because if petrol prices are high, it's going to be expensive to transport goods and services. So everything else tends to go up in prices if petrol, diesel is more expensive. Then inflation is a continuous process and that never ends, sorry. Well, it's true because it feeds upon itself and brings about more inflation. Clearly, if we look at what causes inflation, basically, it's caused by demand. It's also caused by cost. So when there's an increase in demand for goods and services, it will cause an upward pressure for prices. We call that demand pull inflation. Then if there's an increase in the cost of production, like this particular example where petrol will be the cause, well, we call this one cost push inflation. So prices go up because of the cost of production. Now, one example of cost push inflation is, say, employees demanding higher wages. So if they demand higher wages, what's going to happen is businesses are going to grant them their demands. But then it then makes whatever it is that the businesses are making to be more expensive to produce because it's expensive to pay their workers. So they will have to increase the prices of whatever it is that they produce. Now, if they increase their prices, their employees will start feeling like they cannot afford the new prices. So they'll demand higher wages again, which then causes, so basically it's a never ending process, basically, if you look at it. Now, well, you then ask yourself, why is it then that we don't just stick to wherever it is that we are? I guess it's impossible. Now, what has happened to the fuel prices since 2010? So this one is an easy one. You cannot get this wrong. You see 2010 fuel prices was 5 rand. So it shows other years in between. And then 2015, it's 12. So it shows that it has been going up. So you can't get this one wrong. So what has happened to fuel prices? Fuel prices have been increasing over the years. So basically, you can't get this one wrong. You would deserve lunch if you do. Then what will happen to employment when the cost of production increases? Well, employment will decline because now it's expensive for businesses to hire. So if it's expensive for them to hire, then they won't be able to actually afford to employ as many. So employment will decline. Now, usually, here's a tip. When they ask you what will happen to a specific variable, in most cases, I'm not saying in all instances, in most cases, your answer is either increase or decrease. Okay. In this case, we want to know the relationship between an increase in the cost of production. Let's see, an increase in the cost of production and employment rates. So clearly, if I say the answer is it will decrease, then it means there's an inverse relationship between employment rate and employment, it will decrease, then production increases, the cost of production, sorry. So there's an inverse relationship between the two. So I'm just saying, if you get stuck on a question that asks you what would happen to a specific variable that you'll be given, whatever scenario it is, in most cases, the answer is either it will increase or it will decrease. What will happen to GDP? What will happen to, prices, what would happen to employment. In most cases, the answer is it will increase or it will decrease. So I'm just saying, if you don't know, don't leave it blank. Pick one of the two. Just say it will increase. You might be right, or it will decrease. Sangomize it. Then, what is meant by fuel is the foundation of all costs. Well, we saw that in our heading here, and I kind of talked about it. And so we can say here, fuel is the foundation of all costs. Well, as I mentioned in the opening of this video, when petrol prices go up, it's going to cause other items to go up in price, because think about it. Whatever it is that you find in a supermarket got there using transport. And so if fuel is more expensive, then it's going to be expensive to transport whatever it is that you find in a shop. Any shop, go to a shopping mall, be it clothing, be it food. So just imagine. And what do we spend money on? We spend money on all those things that you find in all the shops you may think of. And all of those goods were transported. And they were transported in so many stages in the production process. Let's begin there. Some were extracted from natural resources. Some were mined. Extracted. Some were farmed, like farming. Some were, imported. Whatever the case is, all these goods, they were transported one way or the other. Think about maize. It's transported from the farm to wherever it is that it gets processed into milling mill. Then they process it. Then they transport it to wherever it is that they pack it. Then they transport it to the storage. Then they transport it to maybe the supermarket, where we finally get our hands on the bag of maize meal or milling meal, whatever you call it. Now, it went through so many stages in the production process, but as it was being produced and value was being added to it, it was transported from point A to B until it gets itself in a shop. And basically, think about it, if petrol or diesel is expensive, then it would be expensive to transport this particular item I'm talking about. Then the last part, why is inflation regarded as a never-ending process? I also addressed this one in my introduction. Sorry, there's a car driving. And what I said was, it feeds upon itself and brings about more inflation. So basically, it's a never-ending process, just as much as I said. Let's look at the answers. Right, number one. What happened to the price of fuel? Yes, it increased from 5 to 12. What will happen to employment? Yes, it will decline. Then what is meant by fuel is the foundation of all costs. Transport is the bloodline of all economic activities. If the petrol price increase, then all other products are likely to increase. Then business will offset this extra cost by increasing the price. Then why is inflation regarded as a never-ending process? When consumers or workers feel like their earnings are not enough to sustain their livelihood, they will demand higher wages. If their demands are successful, wages will increase. Businesses will increase their prices to compensate for the higher input costs. This will result in higher prices. Well, this is common sense, but I believe this was a very easy exercise, and I'll see you in the next video. God bless.